Hi friends, we are making Trim Healthy Mama Ginger Snaps today. I have been wanting some cookies that I could just have on my cocoa and cookie bar here. I just got a little cookie jar. It was the size that would fit. It's really not a cookie jar, but I'm going to use it as a cookie jar. And I want to keep, this is by Cocoa and Cookie Bar for the Christmas season. So I want to keep some little cookies in there that are crispy, that everybody can enjoy, that will last for a while without being in the refrigerator, but who knows if they'll even last a day with my family eating them. But I wanted to make some ginger snaps because those kind of fit the bill. So the recipe is in the original cookbook, the very first cookbook. And it's page 389. It's also on the membership site. So if you don't have the book, I can't share the recipe with you, but I can make it with you today. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. One thing to remember is you can always double the recipe. So for this time, I'm actually just gonna make this once, but you can double the recipe, and if you wanted to bake, double it. What my plan to do is, when I know these are a hit, which my family does like ginger snaps, but when I know that this is something they want me to repeat, I'm gonna make it twice. So I'll make it, I'll double the recipe, and I will cut the dough in half, and I'll put half the dough in the freezer, and I will bake half the dough, put it in the jar, and then that way, the next time I'm ready to make more ginger snaps and refill that jar, I can just pull out the frozen dough, let it thaw, or just cut it, or shape it once it's thawed, and bake it again for the next batch. So no problem there. And I'm gonna make these really little. I'm not gonna make them like the typical ginger snap size, or even the size that is in the book. And I'm not even gonna roll out the dough and cut and score. I'm actually going to just use like a little tablespoon probably, or maybe even a half a tablespoon to scoop the dough and plop it on parchment paper on the pan and smush it down a little bit so that they're just really crispy, thin ginger snaps. They'll fit better in the jar. I can put more in there, and that'll be something a little more crispy, and that'll help it be a little more crispy for what I'm trying to go for. So the first thing we do is measure out almond flour and put that in. I will give you a little tip for making anything sweet when it comes to Trim Healthy Mama, is you're gonna always wanna keep a pinch of hand handy. So anything that you make with low carb sweeteners, and these are not artificial sweeteners, these are natural sweeteners. Anything that you make with a natural sweetener kind of sometimes can have an aftertaste, especially if you're not used to baking and tasting, baking with and tasting that sweetener. So for me, and for my family, I always just put an extra pinch of salt, especially if the recipe doesn't call for it, in the recipe so that it offsets that flavor or that taste. So there's the almond flour. Then it calls for egg white. And we're gonna measure egg white. Egg white is typically 2 tablespoons is usually how much an egg white is when you're cracking a fresh egg. And so I'm gonna just use my liquid egg white so I don't have to waste an egg yolk or find a place to put it. And so I'm just gonna measure that out with this. And this is a really quick and easy recipe. And if you were to go on the membership site or do the math yourself with a calculator, you can calculate it to do multiple batches, and then you can make as much dough as you want. Now, these aren't the gingerbread men, these are the ginger snaps. So that's something to remember too. Ginger. My family likes to have sweets on hand during the Christmas season. Just a little bit, a little snack of one. And for me, this is an S, so I'm gonna probably limit these a little bit for myself. I'm not gonna enjoy them as much as I would if they were a fuel pull, but that's okay. We need 4, let's see, I'm using gentle sweet instead of super sweet. So that's gonna be 12 teaspoons. And so that makes 4 tablespoons, right? Yes. So for some reason my gentle sweet clumped up a little bit. And this cup measures 2 tablespoons. Okay. Now we need cinnamon. And it says to taste, so I'm just gonna sprinkle. Another thing for me to recognize during this recipe for you is I have my molasses out, and I'm going to use just a touch of molasses in there because I wanted to have that brown sugar flavor. It's just going to be a little bit of a splash. It's not going to be much. It's not going to be enough to change the fuel type because it will add a little bit of carb, but not a lot. Vanilla. To taste, it says, so a splash. Mineral salt. And I'm going to do just, like I said, a splash of molasses. And I will have to clean up the jar when I'm done because you know what molasses does. It just gets everywhere. So I will clean this up when we're done. So then we're just going to put the beater in over here. And mix it up. It doesn't even require a long time of prep. Hold your ears. Mix that up real quick. And then typically what you do is you use your hands to shape a ball with the dough, and then you roll it out on parchment. And like I said, I'm going to use this as like a scoopable drop cookie instead of a roll-up cookie. And we're basically baking on 325. So preheat the oven, and it says 10 to 15 minutes. Let me just scrape some of this down. Such a small amount in a big bowl, which is why it's also another good reason to, like, if you're in a hurry, just make a bigger batch. So we'll all reach better. Another idea to help them be a little bit crispier is to use a metal pan instead of a stoneware pans. I'm going to pull out my trusty, well seasoned, don't look so great, but work really well pans, and cover it with some parchment for the number one reason of easy cleanup, but the number two reason of not sticking. And just going to spoon that on to the pan and push it down. So I'll grab this measuring spoon and I'm just gonna fill it up and then use my fingers to get it out. Sink it down in the pan. You want them to be more, well-rounded. You probably get like a little small cookie scoop, or scoop that that easily dispenses dough. But my family doesn't care if things look rustic. They care about what they taste like. So, but you can even use like a little scraper to kind of get it out. Help them look a little more uniform. Or you could roll it out and just cut them out with a small mini cookie cutter. It's going to work the same regardless. So that's all we're going to do. We're going to get all these scooped out and laid on the pan. You can roll them if you want. That'll help get them more uniform looking. You can smash them down with the bottom of a measuring cup, smash them down with your hands, whatever. And so I'm gonna just finish filling up this pan, and that's it. Bake on 325 for 10 or 15 minutes. And then you're gonna have a really yummy little batch of bite-sized pop in the mouth ginger snaps that are low carb, that are Trim Healthy Mama Friendly S that you can tack on to, you know, an S meal or even a fuel pull meal, which is a really good way to get an S dessert in, is to have a fuel pull meal before, so that you don't stack too much fat in one meal. Or you can have them for your snack with some protein and some non-starchy veggies and maybe even some berries. All right, have a great day. Merry Christmas.